So my name is Vidya Atreya, and I have been a wildlife biologist for the longest time. Initially, I was just a wildlife researcher, and then I started studying leopards that live among people. And that's what I've been doing for the last 20 years.
I'm Ratna, and I'm a faculty at the Biology and Life Sciences Division of Ahmedabad University. I study the freshwater marsh crocodiles or mugger crocodiles.
I'm Shutirtha Datta. I am a wildlife biologist and I study bustards, which are very large big birds, also very rare and endangered. And I've been studying these birds and these landscapes for almost 17 years now.
My name is Amarjeet Kaur. For barn swallows, I am working along the Himalayan arc. Barn swallows are summer breeding visitors in the Himalayan region.
So I am Himali Nautiyal, and I'm an anthropologist, primatologist. And I'm also founder and director of this field site called Himalayan Langur Project, where we have been working on primate behavior ecology and conservation projects in the Himalayas. Almost it's been 10 years we are working there.
I'm Rohit Chakravarti. I study bats. I'm a bat researcher.
I'm Jannavi Joshi, and I'm an evolutionary biologist based out of Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology. I've been studying centipedes from 2005, which is 20 years.
I'm Ganesh Raghunathan. I work with Nature Conservation Foundation based out of Valparai. For slightly over a decade, I've been following elephant populations in this landscape, trying to find ways through which we can minimize negative human-elephant interactions while also promoting tolerance towards wildlife.
I don't think coexistence is something that we are wanting or whatever. It's what we have right now. We have wild animals and people sharing space all over India. Leopards are not the only ones. How do we ensure that we live so that we are safe? That's the point.
We've clearly seen that bats are not animals that are restricted to forests. Bats are very much animals of the city, very much animals of our immediate vicinity.
If I'm a centipede, I need a cool place because they have open breathing organs. So they have a spiracus, is it called, of the body. And when you have open spiracle, it's your breathing organ which is open. You need a cool space because you can't lose moisture. So you need a moist place to survive. You can't be exposed to sunlight, but at the same time, you don't want to be visible to the predators. So I think having multiple microhabitats to live is what I think centipede must be looking.
I think just what makes for a good house to rent. You want safety, you want availability of water, you want grocery stores around you, which in the case of bats are good feeding grounds. And yeah, I think these three factors are the key. But also, given that bats don't have fans and ACs, the roost itself should have some climate control.
Muggers is also cold-blooded organism, so it cannot maintain its body temperature. It has to continuously move itself from different temperature regions or the regions which vary in temperature in order to maintain its optimum body temperature.
I think for all these animals, what you really need, let it be tigers or leopards, is a safe space where they can raise their cubs. Either with sub-adult cubs who are larger than her, and then with babies, and then after that, a certain time again, she is pregnant. She's always in that state of bearing children.
The langur can feed in the agriculture field, that's okay for them, but for sleeping, the sleeping site preference is very strong. Still, they want oak trees, first of all, right? And oak trees which are not like oak trees with nice, old oak trees, not like young ones. So they have very strict preference towards this pristine, highly dense oak patches.
We need to spare some areas and we need to share some areas. So as long as there are some protected grassland areas which are not overgrazed, which are not converted to agriculture, where the birds can breed, they can lay eggs, they can rear the chicks, That is the minimal that is required. Whenever they find these protected grassland enclosures which are fenced, they use it very intensively, and particularly for the breeding season. These protected grassland enclosures have many times more insect abundance, particularly grasshoppers, during monsoon when they time their breeding. And majority of the females were laying eggs within these protected grassland enclosures. So although just 5% of the area is in this form of protected grasslands, 80% of nests were found within these protected grasslands. So they were like disproportionately favoring these areas.
But we all know elephants are long-ranging species. A herd will have, on an average, travel about 250 square kilometers, or a male would travel maybe another 100 or 150 more square kilometers or something like that. Where will they go? Where is the space? Our forests and tiger reserves are primarily keeping the tigers as the focal species. Where is the space for a herd of elephants to move without interacting with anybody? It's just not possible these days. Our forests and protected areas are extremely small. They cannot accommodate the elephants. Elephants don't use forests like that. Earlier times, the fragmentation was so much lesser. The linear infrastructure damage was much lesser. There were still moving parts. When it comes to movement, the thing is, it's not that elephants are only looking for food. There's a lot going on in their society. They are a very social species. There's a lot of communication that is happening between individuals, even if they're spaced quite some distance apart. If it can travel, they communicate through infrasound.
We human, or like the community living very close to forest, we were living with them, with the animals. We already have this relationship. Historically, we have this relationship where we accept animal as a part of our society. We never say that any community living still in the forest, they will never say, oh, this animal. They will always consider animal as a part of ecosystem. Like for example, the community, same Gadwali community, if they are semi-nomads, like they are shepherds in the, they're going in high altitude, living in the forest. If something happened like there, they get attacked, the predator attack their livestock, right? But they don't react the way when they react in the valley. So there they will say, okay, maybe we did something wrong for the nature, for the god. We didn't follow something. So that's why God is coming towards us to punish us like this way. So we have to be very careful about, they have some rules and rituals. So they feel for the nature because they know we have to protect it because that's like, very important for their survival. But we are losing this relationship as settled community anywhere. When we are settled, then we don't have that. Like we always, we just see first reaction towards the animal is like, why you are in our space? We just don't want to share our space with them, though we have been sharing with them historically, always sharing space with the animal. We, that's why we have, I think, a lot of animal god and all. Why? Because we, forest god, we have different forest system where you protect that for the god. Why? Because we think that the animal live in those forests are also need, they are like god, and we just try to connect somehow like with a broader ecosystem like
Thing. But more specifically in Himachal, Uttarakhand, Nepal, maybe, I don't know, I only know a part of it, and Sikkim and North Bengal. Also in Manipur, people consider that these birds are, they are like goddess Lakshmi, because they think that if this bird is coming and nesting in their property, they are bringing good luck, maybe prosperity, but they see these birds as a sign of good luck. So people often tell me, so whenever I go and I ask them, where else do you know that these birds are nesting? And they would say they don't nest everywhere. They only select few houses or few shops. So, so when I went to Kashmir, there I think it is to do with the religion also. So there people said ki it's just they consider these birds as what, some like a part of God. They don't think that they're going to these birds are going to bring good luck or money to them, but it's just that they are embodiment of God to them.
That the people worship goddesses there, Kodiyar Mata. And the Kodiyar Mata has a Vahan. She sits on crocodile. So because of this connection with Kodiyar Mata, and Kodiyar Mata apparently also brings, it's like some form of Lakshmi, So if you disturb Khodiar Mata, or that's what people believe, that there will be like, I think wealth and happiness will be compromised. That is the thought. So that's the reason they have these special connection with the Mughals in Charotar. The people are tolerant and they coexist with the Mughals. And
the fact that there's so many human societies in India which revere leopards and revere large cats. So a lot of indigenous communities across the world had this relationship with large cats, let it be jaguars or pumas or tigers or leopards or lions. And the indigenous societies had it. And then the colonial gaze was different. It was about extermination, which even happened in India. But now it's gone back after colonial times in India. It's gone back. And there's still people, even to this day, which revere and perform rituals for species like leopards.
so the numbers are lower in Charotar just because they know how to behave around the mountains. So, like I told, like if there is a den on one side of the pond, you will see actively people, like the local people, telling that don't go towards that side of the pond because there is a den there. And the female is guarding or the mugger is guarding. So please avoid using that area. Also, they sometimes use certain demarcated areas for washing clothes as well as for cattle. They give bath to the cattle. And we have asked them that why are you using this area, not like frequenting in other places? And they said this is the area which is less used by mugger. So I'm coming to this side of the pond because I have not seen a mugger for the last 2 years, 6 months, or whatever it is to be using this side. That's the reason this is my side, but that's their side. So there is a kind of respectful boundaries, we can say. I think it's nothing to be very specific about crocodiles. I will say to live with any wild species, have to have a little bit of wild instincts in us, actually. Like, I think once with a lot of urban polishing, when from wild get very urbanized and we just forget about all our wild instincts, and that is when we stop kind of adjusting with the wildlife around us.
I was lucky enough to see this animal that even in my childhood and my growing up days, I had never heard anything good about. So it wasn't an animal that I was programmed to, I was conditioned to. When I saw it, I realized that this animal really doesn't seem capable of doing any harm. You need to see this animal properly before framing an opinion about it.
Yes.
And the moment you see a bat, you realize just what I realized. And most of these myths that come up about bats, you see that pattern repeating with owls. So these are all nocturnal animals, all animals that we don't usually see, and that allows our mind to do the job, which is imagine everything negative about these animals. When you see these animals, you embrace the animal for what it is. By embracing diversity, I don't just mean the diversity of species around us, easy to live with because you know that you see a diversity of shapes and sizes and you're automatically in awe of that diversity. Also being more open to understanding why these animals behave in a certain way. If this animal is living in my house, why is it living in my house? What can I do to let it live in my house while maintaining a decorum? So probably putting a sheet of wood slightly on top of the wall so that the droppings don't fall to the ground. Maybe trying to put a bat house if that is absolutely necessary. But yeah, a lot of people don't make that effort to live with the animals.
Accepting doesn't mean wanting to hug them and all, but accepting means it's the opposite of not wanting them. But if you don't want them, then you capture them and leave them here and there. And it's like a messy situation for everybody. Like there are more attacks, more conflict. But
Yeah, but again, this is my individual perspective. I think just them not doing anything in the negative shade itself attributes to a positivity. We live in a time period like that, I feel. As of now, if they're staying indoors, not putting their lives at risk, not going to get that mobile late night photo, just being little aware of their surroundings when they're of their safety when they're stepping out. Just these things itself can one is ensure safety. When they're angry, they obviously say things like, "Oh, we are really fed up, but what can we do in our lives?" You can literally see the worry on their lines on their forehead. They're like exhausted from the previous night, bloodshot eyes. They wouldn't have slept a wink because the elephants were somewhere around their house. But then, after all that, they'll offer tea and they'll say, "But what to do? They also have to eat, no." So that's where the thing is. It's
But in Kashmir and Manipur, the swallows have taken hold of entire room. So if you see, whole walls are splashed with the droppings. So it's like a modern art that somebody has done. So people are quite tolerant, especially if it is in a rural area. But if it is in tourist spot, so people are less tolerant because of course their source of income, their shop property is getting affected because of the birds. The other thing that I see is that the connect has to be there. So the people who still feel very close with barn swallows, they do actually wait for them, I would say. Barn swallows are nesting everywhere. They're everywhere in the northern hemisphere and they are nesting. And the name barn actually came from the Europe only, that they were nesting in the barns and all. And there the audience was amazed how people in the Indian region are tolerant of these birds. And people came to me and they're like, "Ki, we don't see these birds nesting this close to us." And they are nesting, but in the cow sheds, in barns only. And most of the research which shows that these birds are in decline in Europe and Canada, they show that nest site availability is the main reason. Loss of
Correct.
nest site availability. So first room of the property is usually the shop, and at the back there also the house of the same people. So they're
Right.
residing there inside. So they would say ki, "Oh, these birds are so annoying in the morning at 5 o'clock." They're like, "Cha, cha, cha, open the gate. We want to go out." So they will say ki, especially in the nesting season when the babies are there in the nest. So they have to go out at the earliest
Yes.
hour to catch insects. So people are like, they are used to it. They would just open the shutter, okay, go and do about whatever the business is. So they know the timings. The birds know the timings. People know the birds' timings. So what happened during lockdown? Because you had to close the shops. What happened to the
Right.
nesting? And most about, I would say 40-50% people told me that the nesting failed because the birds could not access the nest. But more interestingly, that they showed me that they actually cut a part of the shutter, like this small square,
Yes.
for just the birds to enter into the shop and do about their business and go out. So this is how people were more welcoming to the birds. And this time also they would say कि हमने SDO से बात कर ली थी. They gave us special permission to keep the shutter this much open for the birds so that they could come and go out.
Ever since 2011, when our forest officer came at Sanjay Gandhi National Park, he started this Living with Leopards program, which basically was telling the people that no, we don't have a choice, that we have to share space with them. And that's the most peaceful outcome. Because the moment you start removing them and putting them here
Yes.
and there, it's not going to help here because how many ever you remove, there are others. If you put them somewhere else, you're going to create a problem there because these animals' home is here. They don't know that place.
Yes.
So working with the media, working with citizens, and I think Mumbai over the years for me, it's not just leopards, but you have the marine life of Mumbai, then you have the flamingos in Bombay, you have Shaheen falcons in Bombay. Like Bombay,
Right.
I guess just the way it accepts other human beings, it also accepts other life forms as well and is proud of it, which is quite amazing.
But also the advantage here is that all the damages that occur to structures is borne by the companies and not by the people. It does not hit the people's pocket immediately. Elephants don't eat tea. So damage happens to the ration shops. Again, it is not a personal expenditure, economical hit for an individual's house. The issue is only when it breaks their house, damages their items. It could be a
Right.
TV, it could be a refrigerator, and things like that. Those are expenses that they'll have to incur. But the biggest issue is loss of life. So, given such factors, this is how people can potentially. This could be a potential example of how that can potentially. Oh, I don't know how to say it. Tell you what the general scale of tolerance levels are, maybe.
And I think the story we would like to say whenever we talk about these groups, and not only centipedes, but centipede, millipede, scorpions, spiders, is that they have survived last 500 million years. We have the oldest fossil, which is 420 million year old, of a centipede called Scutigeraomorpha. We still have Scutigeraomorpha which look like that today. So they have survived all mass extinction events, and you have some living. They have survived dinosaurs. Like dinosaurs went extinct in Cretaceous. So these are few groups which we have living.
Yeah, so I had read this really cool article by, I forget his name, he used to write for The Guardian, he still writes sometimes, about how the UK spaces are soulless because you don't even see an eagle, or there's no chance of seeing a wolf. And I felt that when, like 10 years back, I'd gone to Scotland and I was walking in stunning landscape, walking on the hills, but all I was seeing was sheep dung. There was nothing else. Like they even kill their eagles over there. So I think, this awe plus fear, it strikes, I think, at some really core part of what is human. And to not have that and to live in an entirely sterile bubble. So I would compare it to that. Would you prefer living in one of these ads that you see for water or air conditioner on our TVs where everything's white? You're wearing white. And I don't want a life like that. I want a life where I have other people who are different than me. When I go somewhere, I know that, oh my God, those trees are there. And oh my God, maybe I will see an eagle, or that shepherd said that there's a wolf there. Even the shepherd just saying, oh, he saw a wolf, it does something to you, which otherwise you can just sit in a car and just in an AC travel everywhere. It's no fun. I don't know. I think it's something very core of humanity. If you look at all the old cave paintings, very old, it's only about animals and people. Because that was how we were for a long time, till a few hundred years back. And I think there are deeper connections. Like, why are we feeding crows in our house? Why is it we worship the trees, or we notice the termite hills? Or I think there's some deeper connection between other life forms and ours that we've forgotten, and we are in just because the way life is nowadays. And I think it's a shared history of humans with other life forms. To me, losing these animals is actually losing a part of the Earth's history, which is really sad.
But maybe just one thing is that one reason why many people talks about Great Indian Bustard conservation is that for a very long time it has been the rallying point for conservation of these open habitats, because there is not many species over here that attracts the public attention to that extent, that attracts the awe of people because of their flamboyant displays and their unique reproductive system, just their royal gait or something like that. There's something that attracts a lot of public attention, and you can see that the number of wildlife photographers or that come from there, the number of discussion that happen around that. And it would be really sad if the species disappears, because if you think that you wouldn't see these displays, a landscape without the bustard displaying, that's a little difficult to fathom. It's a different landscape then.